I'd like to call a meeting to order of the Amberley Village Council of Monday, April 8th, 2024. Please call the roll.
My apologies. Richard
It's
Bardak.
okay, it's a lot to, it's kind
It's
of a
the
lot
eclipse.
to keep track of.
Richard Bardak. Adam Frankel.
Here.
Ben Hunt.
Here.
Keely Paul. Here. Bob Rosen.
Here.
Dara Wood. Here. Scott Larmer.
Here. Andrew
Kakey.
Here.
Chief Wallace. I'm sorry. Lieutenant Bloom.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda this meeting is well, first of all, the minutes were distributed with our packet. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, we will consider them accurate and approved. We'll call on the village manager, Scott, to give the finance report.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to the UAN report that is included in your council packet, we also have a memo summarizing the finances for the month of February. Earnings tax being the largest source of revenue for the village, we collected $178,000 the month of February. Our year-to-date collection is $551,000. Overall, the revenue for the month of February was $270,000. Our year-to-date number represents about $837,000. So we've collected about 13% of the revenue we have been anticipated for the year, but obviously we're just in 2 months in. On the expense side, the expenses for the month of February total a little over $500,000. Our year-to-date expenses of 1.2. We've spent about 18% of the 2024 general fund budget, and we ended the month of February with a 4.2 unencumbered general fund balance. And that concludes the finance report.
Any questions or comments for the village manager on the finance report? Not, the next item on the agenda, we are pleased to have this evening County Commissioner Driehaus, who's going to give us an update on the county. Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm doing my 49 and 49 again, so I don't know if any of you were here back in 2017, a couple of you maybe, when I went, yeah, all right. All right, you and me, my friend. Here we go. I went around to all 49 jurisdictions in the county. I tried to do it in 49 days. That did not work out. That was just ridiculous. I should have never said that. So now I am back out visiting all 49 jurisdictions again. I'm probably around 25 by now, so I'm thrilled to be out here in Amberley, just giving an update. And I did this last time in 17, not knowing a lot about the county. I'd just been elected. I have a little bit more knowledge now, which is helpful. And so my menu of opportunity has been updated. There are more opportunities than there were back in 2017. And so I hope it's helpful to you as you glance through some of the ways that Amberley Village can partner with Hamilton County. There are quite a few things on the list, and if you have any questions or comments, all 3 county commissioners' contact information is on the back. So I have an open door policy. Feel free to reach out anytime, and if I can be helpful, I'm happy to be helpful. But just a couple of things, and I'll get into some of the partnership in a second. But overview-wise, the county is stable. We've got a structurally balanced budget. That's something I could not say in 2017. It was not true. It is now. I'm happy to report. And we are paying competitive wages. We have a parental leave policy. We've got a tuition reimbursement policy. And so we are doing a better job of recruiting and retaining people in the county structure. The reason that matters to Amberley is because the jobs I'm talking about are the 911 operators or the deputies or the folks that make sure kids are safe in this community through the Child Protective Services through JFS. So some of the things the county does, well, I kind of refer to them as safety net services, but if we don't do that well and we don't have good people in those positions, you know it, and your constituents know that. And so I'm proud to report that we are doing better now than we have been in the past. We also have an opportunity to do some economic development partnerships. And so that's some of that Amberley Village has taken advantage of, and I mean that in a very positive way. So I'll get into that in a second. But a couple of the big ticket items, I guess, or things that are in the news, I suppose, are things like the Convention Center District that we are working on with the City of Cincinnati and 3CDC and the state of Ohio, trying to renovate. We are going to renovate the Convention Center, $200 million project that will put us in a position to eventually expand the exhibit space and attract more conventions to this region, something that we are not doing a great job of right now. I don't know if you all have been to the Convention Center lately, but it's rather tired and old and gray and needs a little dusting off, a lot of dusting off. And so we are thrilled to be partnering with the City of Cincinnati and doing it as a collective instead of piecemealing it where, they own this property, we own this property, the property over here is owned by the port. It doesn't make sense to do those in 3 separate ways, but rather do it collectively. And so for the first time, we're coming together to try to revitalize that part of the county. Financial benefit to everybody, obviously, and also a headquarter hotel then will come in and build up to the south. That'll be a private development with some dollars in from the public sector, but mostly private, and that should be an 800-key hotel, 5-flag. It should be really, really nice. I've seen the renderings. They're pretty cool. And so that district that's been very dormant, really, for a long time in the county and in the city will be revitalized and connected to what's going on in Over the Rhine and what's going on down at the banks. So it's this great project. I'm really proud to be part of it. The other piece of this is the Brent Spence Bridge. I cannot take credit for that, although we were advocating for many, many years for the Brent Spence Bridge, to many, many presidents, by the way. But it's finally coming online. But what we can do is influence how it's done. And so we are going to gain some land to the west of the Convention Center, again, giving us some opportunity, depending on how big a tract of land that is, to maybe think about an arena in that location or the expansion of the exhibit space instead of going to the east, going to the west. And that allows that the eastern space, which is where the Millennium Hotel was, it's now this big, beautiful green space that we can program for the Convention Center. We would prefer not to build over there so we can program it. So those are the kinds of things we're sorting through at the county, just to kind of give you a broad frame of reference. I always get asked about the Bengals lease. It's fine. We're in the middle of negotiations. We're always in the middle of negotiations with the Bengals, right? We're always doing projects with the Bengals. They're in, the last set of projects was about $71 million. It is very expensive to maintain these stadiums. They're community assets. They belong to you, the taxpayers, and we're doing our best to keep them up and running. The good news is we don't need to replace that stadium because it's in really good shape. And the Bengals agree that we don't need to replace it. That's about a $2 billion ask. So instead of that, we're doing, it'll be hundreds of millions. We're not sure how much, we're not sure how far we're going to go with this, but in the meantime, we are trying to do some of this work prior to finishing out the lease negotiations. So in this round, before the season starts next year, we're doing about $71 million worth of, escalators, loading docks, waterproofing, club seats, you name it, we're doing it. But the good news is that the Bengals are doing about 40% of that, and the county taxpayers are doing about 60%. The previous stadium was built with about 94% being done by the county and the rest by the Bengals. So you can see the difference between a 60% and a 94%. So we're doing better already by way of the taxpayers, and the Bengals are in this with us. And so it's a bit of an attitude change, and so we're very excited to move forward towards the lease agreement, which is up in 26, with a different kind of approach than what we had last time. So all is well so far with the Bengals negotiations. It is fluid, but we are in the middle of it as we speak. And then the one other broad thing I'd like to talk about it here, because I'm in Amberley and you guys have been in this space, the Hamilton County Addiction Response Coalition is this smart group of individuals that are prevention and treatment and law enforcement and public health, hospitals, faith community, business community in, saying to ourselves, how can we save lives, get people into treatment and long-term recovery? And so we have been doing this work since I've been there for 7 years. It started before I got there. Greg Hartman started it, credit where credit is due. But you guys have been very helpful in this space, especially with some of your safety personnel. And so the good news is that last year we had a reduction in overdose deaths, and that's one of the few ways we can measure success. It's very difficult to measure success when it comes to addiction. And so overdose deaths are the most obvious and I guess finite way for us to do that. And so last year our overdose deaths were down 16%, which was the first time we had seen a reduction since we started this work, since we had that huge spike a number of years ago. This year we've seen another reduction. That is unprecedented in the state of Ohio or throughout the country. I mean, most communities are seeing a spike because fentanyl is moving into the drug supply. I credit that in part to the group, the Hamilton County Addiction Response Coalition, and all the many, many providers and partners throughout the community. But I think also it's because, and Amberley does this, we talk about addiction in a way that is not stigmatizing. It is rather a way to say to people, if you have an issue related to addiction or mental health, we are not going to incarcerate you, but rather we're going to support you and try to figure out a pathway to get you into recovery. And so we've had some success here in this community, and so I think we need to acknowledge it, celebrate it, knowing that we're still losing hundreds of people every year, and we've got a lot of work left to do. So those are kind of my, there are many more things I could talk about. I do try to tailor it a little bit to the community. But lastly, I want to talk about partnership, because we stand at the ready to partner with you and every other jurisdiction in Hamilton County. So you got your menu. I have a cheat sheet as to how Amberley Village is doing by way of the partnerships. You're doing very well, by the way. And so I've got years 21, 22, and 23. And you all have taken advantage of the residential recycling incentive program all 3 years. In 23, you got a couple of CDBG grants for demolition and asbestos abatement. And then actually in 24, you got one of the stormwater project grants. These are one of my favorite grants because, as you know, stormwater is a huge issue given the topography in Hamilton County for so many communities, especially after the weather we just had. And so I am grateful for the partnership that you have presented to the Hamilton County, because without you applying for these dollars, they're meaningless. It doesn't matter if we offer dollars unless you're applying for them and then using them in the county to make your community better, which in the end makes Hamilton County better. So I want to thank you for the partnership. We do have one grant that you have not applied for, I suppose, or rather you have not received, and that is the revitalization grant. I don't know, given the nature of Amberley Village, it's not like you've got a business district running through the village, so it's a little bit more challenging, I think, for you, and maybe that's the reason for this. But I do want to offer that the deadline is Friday, in case you want to take a look at it. I know, right? No, I'm always the bearer of decent news. And I know you've applied for a small event grant too. And by the way, if you are not successful in receiving any of these dollars, our staff is always ready to talk about why that is, what the rationale was, why you didn't get it versus someone else, and to make sure that you're more successful the next time around, because these are annual grants, and so until they're not, right, until the county commissioners decide to take the money away, I don't see that happening. The amounts do fluctuate a little bit year to year. There was a little bit of a reduction this year because of some of our revenues, but I keep looking at you because I suspect it has a lot to do with you by way of who's applying for the grant or who's writing those grants. I don't mean to be like pointing at you, but I am. But anyway, we're really grateful for the partnership. And again, if there's anything that we can do to make sure that you're more aware or more successful in some of that, although you've done a pretty nice job of it, the total over the last few years is $260,000. So for Amberley Village, that's a pretty substantial amount of money. So again, really appreciate the partnership. Reach out anytime. Let me know if you need anything. And I'm happy to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you for that presentation. Any questions or comments from council?
Mayor, I'd just like...
Or the village manager?
Thank you. I would just like to return the congratulations to Commissioner Driehaus, because we do have an excellent partnership with the county. We feel very comfortable reaching out to the county. We are very savvy with our grants, and we do appreciate the county putting money towards those grants for smaller communities. That really does mean a lot. This last stormwater grant that we received was huge for the village. It's a lot of money that we won't have to take out of our own coffers for stormwater. So we really do appreciate the relationship that we have with the county. So thank you.
That was a big one. That was a huge chunk of money.
Yes.
And I'm delighted that you guys.
Yes,
dealt with
absolutely.
this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments from council?
Quick question. Does the, and thank you for being here, does the county offer any assistance or grants as it relates to redevelopment of playgrounds?
All of our grants have to do with economic development when it comes to revitalization. Even the small event grants are about community building, but there's some nexus to economic development per the ORC, the Ohio Revised Code. And so any of our general fund dollars have to have something to do with economic development. We've been asked about playgrounds before. That can be a difficult nexus but depending on the location and what's going on around it, perhaps. So I would encourage you to apply, and if not successful, ask for the rationale. I suspect it would be because a different community had a clearer nexus to economic development than your playground did. But if there are fewer applicants and we've got monies available, perhaps that would work out. So I would encourage you to always try to apply. Holly Chrisman is the one that really handles this. She's a rock star. She's very good, and she will be happy to describe what the thinking is behind who gets the awards.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Not?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
It was
much.
great to
Appreciate
have
it.
you. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the Finance Committee report. I would like to make a motion for council to approve ordinance 2024-4. This ordinance will correct the appropriations and reallocate money to funds based on revenues that have been collected and expenses that have been made since we passed the budget last year. I could go into excruciating detail of all the changes if anyone would like me to, but essentially that's what the ordinance does, and the Finance Committee recommends that council adopt the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that council adopt ordinance 2024-4. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Richard Bardock. Adam Frankel.
Yes.
Ben Hunt.
Yes.
Keely Paul. Yes. Bob Rosen.
Yes.
Dara Wood.
Yes.
Please note that the ordinance passed in a unanimous vote. I'll now call on Councilman Frankel for Councilman Hunt for the Police Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually a follow-up from the last council meeting. At that meeting, discussed a lot about what happened at our previous Police and Fire Committee meeting. But for tonight, we have just one piece of business. We'd like to make a motion for council to consider Resolution 2024-9, proclaiming April 14th through 20th as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Amberley Village. As we all know, our telecommunications staff, the Amberley Village Dispatch, does a fantastic job doing their jobs. They are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They are always the first to respond to any citizen need. If you place that phone call, they're going to be the ones that pick up the phone on the other end and help direct you to the appropriate need. So I cannot say enough positive things about our dispatch staff, and I believe that this is a resolution that is easy to see just how it can help support and show our support for them.
Second. You make the motion.
If I'd like to make a motion for Resolution 2024-9.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded that a council adopt Resolution 2024-9, proclaiming the week of April 14th through 24th as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Amberley Village. Are there any questions or comments?
I would just like to point out that one of our part-time dispatchers is in our audience, Randy Newsom. Randy was a full-time dispatcher for us for several years and then dropped down to part-time status, but just wanted to give recognition to Randy for his service to the village along with our other dispatchers. So thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Andy. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please note that that resolution passes unanimously.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll now call on Councilman Franco for the Streets, Public Utilities, and Sewers Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee met actually last week to review the bids for an upcoming streets program for 2024, which is focused around the Roman Estates area. Just a point of context, and the village manager and I were going back and forth trying to guess how long ago Roman Estates was actually built. And then we started around 20, and then I was like, I think it was more than that, because I remember as a kid, it was about almost 30 years ago. So the streets in Roman Estates have not been touched for about 30 years, and the village is being proactive as to maintaining the streets of the village. So with that being said, we put out a bid and received, I believe, about 7 or 8 responses. The winning bid was to Barrett Paving. As such, the committee would like to recommend the passing of Resolution 2024-10, which is authorizing the village manager to enter into contract for the Roman Estates. Just one more point of contact: it does not include Roman Reserve. It's just the original Roman Estate.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council adopt Resolution 2024-10, which will authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for the 2024 streets program. Are there any questions or comments?
Got a question. What do we know what the timeline is for the Roman Reserve? Roman Estates streets program?
The next step in this process is to hold a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, being Barrett Paving. That will likely occur sometime in late April, and that's when we will see what the schedule is. I would anticipate resurfacing to occur sometime between May and July, so most likely this summer. There are times when we'd like it to be in the summer where sometimes there's a little bit less traffic, but really it's a function of the contractor scheduling other projects and when does ours fall into that. So as soon as the village knows when that timeline is, we will make sure that residents know when it is happening, because we are certainly, we always look out for the residents to make sure that they're not inconvenienced as much as possible. And this will be an inconvenience of the resurfacing of the streets throughout Roman.
I would like to also just make council aware that from the time council passed the original streets program with a budget, the bids for this project came in at twice what the original estimate was. Now, it was a number of years ago, and we've had inflation, but council can expect going forward as we implement the rest of this program that costs have gone up substantially. And it's something that the Finance Committee is looking at very carefully, trying to mix and match sources of revenue in order to make sure that the program is successfully completed. But it's scary how much costs have gone up. So it's substantial. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Call for a vote on Resolution 2024-10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please note that that resolution passes unanimously. Now call on Scott Larmer for the village manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, one more thing to report out. I would like to also mention that $167,000 of that is coming from the stormwater program. So just want to make that noted. Also, something that has occurred in the village that's probably just as rare as the eclipse is we now have a new truck, and it is fully here. So I would also like the minutes to state that the committee had nothing to do with the naming of said truck. That honor is bestowed upon the driver of the truck. So I'd like to officially welcome truck number 623, also known as Salt Disney, to the Amberley Village Streets crew. I conclude my report.
And for those who haven't seen it, it's a wonder. It's sort of the space age. It's fantastic. Okay, I will now call on Scott to give the village manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to mention 3 items from the village manager's report. The first being that the print newsletter has been sent to the printer, and residents can expect to receive that the week of April the 22nd or April the 29th, depending on when the bulk postage is delivered. Just kudos to Tammy Reesner, who is the one who takes on the initiative of the newsletter. Staff provides input on various stories, but Tammy does a phenomenal job of gathering all this information and putting it forth so that it's a very interesting read. And I think this time our emphasis, as you will see, is on the crime update meetings that we're going to be holding with our residents. We're having 5 different meetings during the month of May, some of them going out to where our residents are, and then 2 of those meetings being held here if residents would prefer to come here. The anticipation is that we'll be able to interface with residents because they are our partners as it relates to crime, and we want to inform them about what they can do to take additional steps to assist us, and vice versa, we want them to tell us what's going on, give us information that can help us be a better partner with them. So you know that we have a very strong relationship with residents here in the village as it relates to the police department, and this will further strengthen that particular relationship. So there'll be more publicity on those 5 dates as we get closer to the month of May. And then the last item I wanted to mention in the manager's report is the approval of the community COL. We don't typically have a lot of new development here in the city, but this is a new development that is on Elbrook Avenue, located adjacent to the school on Elbrook Avenue. The COL was conditionally approved by our Board of Zoning Appeals last week. It is about a 10,000 square foot building, 5,000 square feet on each level, and this is an opportunity for an additional community learning center for our community, and that was given approval. The process is that the zoning approval was received last week. We will reduce that to writing in terms of the conditional approval that was granted, and then the developer, the property owner, will pursue what is needed to fulfill the requirements that the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals placed on this particular approval. So I just want to make council aware that is moving forward. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for the manager? Hearing none, I will call on Lieutenant Bloom to give the chief's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't have a lot to touch base on as far as, knock on wood, any new updates or any new burglaries, I should say. We're still working on some updates on some of the things that we had with the South American gangs doing the burglaries. And actually this week we have some people coming into town from other states. They're going to recover some property out of our property room that was stolen out of Tennessee and various other states. So it's nice that we're getting to a point to where we've closed these cases, have those arrests, and we can return some property to folks, because I'm sure a lot of it has sentimental value besides just regular cash value. And as Scott mentioned, we're going to be having those crime updates, and we're going to touch base on a lot of different things, to help people feel more secure, be more secure in your home, in the neighborhood, and so on and so forth moving forward. And I know in the past we've talked a lot about some of the technology equipment we're using to kind of spearheaded some of this, but I wanted to touch base on one thing that we've had this piece of equipment for a while, but have used it a little more recently, is our drone. We recently had an auto accident where some people had fled their vehicle, ran out onto Amberley Green, and we were fortunate enough to be able to, our drone operator was working, we were able to get the drone up, locate the folks on Amberley Green, and bring them back to the scene to help to close that out. So, and I know that they, at night shift gets the drone out more often because our operator's on night shift, and we're working to get training to a couple more operators so that we can have better coverage throughout the week. But just like, the middle of the night when they locate a car parked on Amberley Green, obviously it's closed, but they'll get the drone up to see if they can sense any heat through the thermal that's how we've located a few people actually out there. Granted, that's not a huge crime, but it's just, it is available to us if we do have something more serious. So Sergeant Baker is leader of that team right now, and we're working on getting a couple more pilots for that. So that concludes my report.
Any questions or comments for the lieutenant? Could you comment? I understand that there is now a national task force that was put together based on some of the work that we did in Amberley on tracking the South American.
Yes, I don't have a ton of details to share on that right now. I know we've been in a series of meetings that started kind of small initially with us, Indian Hill, the Sheriff's Department, Homeland Security, the FBI. So that's kind of getting spearheaded, and it's because it's not going away anytime soon. So we are going to be a part of that team, as well as Indian Hill, the Sheriff's Office, Homeland Security, the Prosecutor's Office is involved. It just, when you have all the interstate transactions and travel going on, you just have to have a lot of resources that everybody needs to share and work together. So it's a positive thing for sure.
Yep. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the lieutenant? If not, I will give the mayor's report. I have, in the last month, I believe I've ridden a half a day with each of the daytime police officers. My intent is, once the calendar turns to May, to ride again, at least for half a shift, with all the officers who are on night duty. My reasoning is I wanted to, obviously personally get to know each individual officer better, but to convey to the police department that how much we appreciate their work, and I just wanted to do that on a personal basis. I will also be trying to participate in the maintenance department, some of their activities as I go along, and so that's some of the things I've been doing this month. I've also sworn in, I think, 3 auxiliary police officers, new ones, and there's one more tomorrow.
Correct.
So, I've had that, and the only other thing I wanted to mention is we have the one-stop drop, which is going to take place on Amberley Green. It will be Sunday, April 28th, between noon and 3 p.m. I know that I got a email for pointing out all the volunteer opportunities that there are available, and I'm sure that there's some that are still needed. So if anyone on council would like to do that, it's certainly a very worthwhile cause. I know our residents like it. It's a very, very positive thing for the village, and that concludes my report. Oh, I did sign a proclamation, didn't I? Yeah, that's things mayors do. Any questions or comments for me on the mayor's report? Hearing none, is there any new business that council members would like to bring up? All right, since there's no new business, I call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.